All right, let's just get into it. The Game Awards 2024. It just happened. It was interesting. And we're going to talk about it here today on the MC Show. Yo, this is our first sponsored episode by V3RPG.com. Appreciate y'all for sponsoring this video. If you guys haven't, please go ahead and check out their website, and your boy is on the front page. V3RPG is an AI-powered RPG adventure game where players can create their own characters, embark on unique adventures, and compete in various leaderboards with a decentralized AI judge powered by the Aura protocol. The game offers thrilling challenges and rewards. Once again, thank you. This is the first sponsor we've had for the MC show. Let's get to it. First, I just want to talk about what the Game Awards actually is. The Game Awards is the biggest award show for video games that we know of. It's not Steam, it's not IGN, it's the Game Awards. It has the most money and resources behind it for a video game award show. And why is that? There is members on the board that are from Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, all the largest game studios. So it makes sense. This is the video game award show. Their first award show, that was when Dragon Age won. Coincidentally, was a EA game that was featured on all of the consoles. So you can tell there is probably some influence on what games win and what don't. But I just want to make sure people in my community and people that come across this episode understand the Game Awards is the biggest award show for video games. Whether you hate it or not, this is the show, and that will probably not change no time soon. I happened to watch a good amount of it, but I did go back and watch it just to make sure we were good with my notes. I got my notes right here. I got my topics over here. Let's dive into this. So let's start with the biggest topic that I think a lot of people in the video game industry had a lot to say. First of all, shout out to Astrobot, who was created by Sony or the Sony Studios. This was their biggest game. This was the game that they put a lot of effort into when they released a new console. A lot of people who were first getting a PlayStation or first getting a console, that was one of the games that was pushed out to you, whether it was on the home screen, whether it was when you went to the store. This is a trending game. It was everywhere when the PlayStation 5 first came out. That helped a lot. But what helped it even more is the people that actually tried the game when it first released. There was a very, very large amount of people that loved it. And I think what people get confused a lot about, especially in video games, is awards don't just focus on the United States. Awards are global, especially for this type of an award show. People in the Netherlands, people in India, people in China, they are all playing video games just as much as the United States. So they have their favorite games and we have our favorite games. Majority of Americans, they don't play video games. They don't play true video games, the platformers, the story games, the RPGs. It's not your NCAA football where people were saying that should have won game of the year. It's not Call of Duty, not your NBA 2Ks. So one of the things I do always like to bring up for a game of the year is how many units did it push? And it actually ended up pushing over 1 million copies. Once again, this is insane. That is a lot of copies of a game. This isn't like music where people can stream it a bunch of times. People still do game share. Like, to sell 1 million copies of a game is extremely, extremely hard, especially if it's not like a $10 game or like a $20 game, which those games even struggle at selling millions of copies. Game only came out in September, October, November, literally 3 months to sell 1 million copies, and it has done extremely well. It's a platformer, very similar to a Mario style game. A lot of Sony haters are saying it's a Mario clone, blah, blah, blah. Hey, everything is a clone. Everything is a copy. It's not a lot of original ideas out there anymore. You gotta have niches. You gotta have lanes that you go down when you make these types of products. It's not just, this is a completely new idea, no one's ever done it, everybody's gonna love it. No, that will probably never happen, especially in the video game industry that has seen a lot of hardships and hills that it's had to climb to get to this point. So I don't want to spend too much more time talking about Game of the Year. I just wanted, to yap about that a little bit, to just say, it deserved it. It won. It had millions of people around the world, not just the United States, around the world playing this game. And the fact that it was an exclusive, I think adds to the love that it gets, because exclusives have a really, really strong chance of flopping or not doing well because you already have limited your audience. I think it also goes to show how well PlayStations are selling. The fact that that many people have bought a PlayStation and have bought your game, that is a very, very specific audience of people. But not anymore. It's millions of people within a few months. And to add, I just hate the talk that it's a Mario clone. Like, they use so much PlayStation aesthetics and levels and things that are just so, this is a PlayStation game. This ain't an Xbox game. This ain't a Nintendo game. This is a Sony PlayStation game, and I love that. That really just, it put the stamp on, hey, this is PlayStation. This is PlayStation. This is what built us to where we are. This is how we've made it to where we are, and people have loved the game. People have enjoyed it, especially a lot of the OGs that have been around Sony since PlayStation 1. I am one of those people who have been around Sony since PlayStation 1. So I can go to say, seeing them win a Game of the Year in a way like this, where it's such a niche game, that takes some skill, that takes some finesse. To go back to my my prediction, I said it literally the last decade or so, most Game of the Years have a very good story, very good adventure. And what I added to it was that it's usually mythical. It's not something that's based off of Ohio or Texas. It would be some sort of RPG, which I wouldn't say Astro Bot was really an RPG. So I think I got that part wrong. It was a fictitious world, so I got that right. I would say it's still an adventurous type game, but it being a platform, hey, I couldn't have predicted that, and I think I'm proud that I couldn't predict the Game of the Year. So I will try to still predict for 2025 at some point in 2024, but I really did want to just mention, it was just hard, to predict what it could be when you really didn't know what was gonna come out. I mean, the fact that this just came out in September and won Game of the Year, hey, that's very impressive to do. So let's talk about the nominations for Game of the Year. I don't know where these were coming from. I don't know who picks these. It's hard to tell. But the fact that there was a DLC in there, yeah, that was rough. That was rough. I don't know why a DLC made it in there. Wukong, I thought that would win. That literally matched all of my predictions for the Game of the Year for 2024. So I was like, I'm just gonna go with that, because that way I can say, hey, I predicted the Game of the Year. But it didn't win. It didn't win, and I think I feel like they have a reason to be upset about that. Was it still a good game? Did it still sell well? Will it still be something that is remembered for a long time? Hey, I think the base that played the game could probably argue that. The Balatro, the card game, I could probably find like 10 other Steam games that kind of match that same type of addictiveness. Shout out to the team though. I mean, the fact that your game even got nominated in there with this type of stuff, hey, kudos to them. But hey, Final Fantasy, insane to me that Final Fantasy is still thriving like this. So, you know, shout out to them. I did not play it. I do not know anybody else who have played it. So, hey, man, it could have been a good one. And then Metaphor, everybody who has played it, like all the reviews and stuff, say this is like art, which I feel like you don't get any more of that nowadays. You don't get art in video games as much as what people have explained Metaphor as. I probably will not play it. That doesn't seem like a game that I could really get into, but hey, man, you have to have a fan base. You have to have people that are behind the game that are fighting for you. They're posting memes. They're using your characters as their profile photos. Like, your game has to run deep into the community. It can't just be it's good because of the gameplay. It's good. No, you have to love the gameplay. You have to love the characters, the colors that was used, the voice acting. Like, you have to love it. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when they mention what games should have won Game of the Year, should have been nominated, because a lot of those don't take it to this extent. They don't take it to a Wukong level. They don't take it to an Astrobot level. They are fun games. They have good storylines, but it's not to that degree of focus and detail and crafting and coding, and it's not to these levels of Game of the Year. And I've already looked back on the Game of the Year awards, and this is not an easy award to win. It takes a lot. Two games that I would say probably could have been in that nomination category, especially over a DLC. I didn't see nothing but good things about Warhammer. Warhammer was very well done. Like I said, down to the characters they used, down to the voice acting, down to the 3D models they were using, like the story, the lore. Like, I feel like that was one of those games that took that type of care and feeling into it. And I don't know why Helldivers didn't make it. I felt like when Helldivers came out, it was people I didn't even know played shooting games that was downloading Helldivers and playing. Like, I was like, yo, you play that? You like that game? Like, I thought it had a very good thought. There's been other games that have tried to do that persistent war type thing, so it wasn't necessarily a new concept, but I felt like it was a newer concept. And I feel like a lot of the things that they were implementing and putting in, it reminded me so much of Star Wars Battlefront. So like, I just wanted it to do well because I knew the type of fun I had with Star Wars, and I seen the type of fun that people were having discovering this type of shooter, this type of game that they've never been used to or played. So those are the two I really would say missed out on a nomination. Outside of that, I am not mad at the list. Like I said, the DLC is kind of wild. Outside of that, though, I think this was a very, very solid Game of the Year nomination list. Let's go down the award list. Best game direction, Astrobot. It was literally the exact same games I was in best game direction. So every award show has awards that just don't mean anything. Like, it's just an extra award thing that they put up there. Best narrative, Metaphor. Like I said, that was one of those games where people were saying that was art. It was art. The whole thing was art. Best art direction, Metaphor, what I just said. Best score in music, Final Fantasy. I don't know a Final Fantasy that doesn't have good music or good, you know what I mean? There's a Final Fantasy soundtrack somewhere that someone's listening to on their way to work right now. I would not doubt it. Best audio design, Hellblade 2. Best performance, Hellblade 2. Innovation and accessibility, The Lost Crown, which I felt like this is an interesting award because Black Ops 6 was on there. Diablo, like Star Wars Outlaws. Like, I feel like to get nominated for accessibility, dub to all those studios. Games for impact, Neva. Best ongoing game, Helldivers 2, which Helldivers 2 had to beat out Fortnite. That's all I was saying. Yeah, that's a hard game to beat out for that category. Best community support, Baldur's Gate 3. I have talked about Baldur's Gate on this channel before. I just need to spend some time with it. I don't understand the hype for it, But in the sense, every person I've said that to, they're like, you gotta spend some time on it. So I think that might be one of my missions here in the future. Best independent game, Balatro. Hey, it's people with hours and hours on that game. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a mobile game. We give it to them again. They got that. Best VR AR game, shout out to Batman, yo. I was like, yo, they got a Batman. Shout out to my guy Shogun who was running that up. I was like, yo, that's a crazy VR concept. Like, we're almost there. We are almost there. We just need something that I don't have to actually use my body. I'm very keen to some helmet device where it feels like I'm using my body, but I'm not using my body. That's where I'm at with VR stuff right now. I think AR is probably the real future of things. Like, obviously what Ray-Bans and Meta got going on right now, like, I think that's the real, like, usable version, where VR is just still just so experimental. Because the Batman one, like, it was cool, but, like, you only playing it a couple times. You're not running it up. Oh, I feel like playing Batman. Nah, you're not doing that. Best action game, Wukong won that. Once again, they went up against Black Ops, Helldivers, so that was a hard category to win. Best action adventure, Astro Bot. Like I said, Astro Bot can still be considered an adventure. Most platformers can be considered adventure games, especially if it's putting you in different worlds and you got to discover things, and it got it. Best RPG, Metaphor. Best fighting game, Tekken 8. Shout out to the homies that play that, because I don't know nothing about no fighting games. I ain't played fighting games since Street Fighter 4, and I was getting waxed on there. So I like that fighting games are still thriving, because I know that market is not great. I know a lot of people don't play fighter games because, for one, the multiplayer community is probably aged. Like we talked about that a lot on this page. Is any multiplayer community that has aged a significant amount is really hard for casuals to get on and enjoy themselves. So Tekken, Street Fighter, those types of games where you hop online and you're probably going against somebody who has a burner account, or somebody who used to play years ago in tournaments and now they're like, oh yeah, I'll boot up my Xbox. It's hard. It's hard to thrive in a fighting game in 2024. So, hey, shout out to Tekken, still going. Multiverses was in that category, and I heard that game isn't even doing well. So, like I said, the fighting games, I don't have much of a thought on that. Dragon Ball was in there, where I was a really big fan of Xenoverse. Xenoverse was a really fun, where you basically created your own Dragon Ball character. You unlocked moves by doing specific missions and completing different objectives. So then you could build your own move set, and then you could play PvP, where there was a meta. Where this Dragon Ball, there wasn't really a meta. It was kind of like a Tekken or a Street Fighter, where there was technique to it. So shout out to Dragon Ball moving in that direction, because Xenoverse, that got old real quick. Best family game, Astro Bot. Best sim/strategy game, Frostpunk 2. I've heard nothing but good things. Yo, shout out to Manor Lords being on that list, man. We played Manor Lords the week it came out on this page, and we had a blast. And I, once again, could not believe it was developed by, at the time, they said it was one person, but I feel like that's just really hard to believe. Best sports/racing game, they gave it to EA Sports FC, which was going against NBA 2K25, which I feel like soccer over basketball, it's going to win every time. Wrestling was on there. The only one I felt like it probably could have truly competed with was F1 24, which in America, racing is becoming a lot more popular outside of NASCAR. NASCAR has always been the best thing ever. Now Americans are following F1. I am personally following F1, and I have still not played the game. So that's something I want to tap into here in the future. So it probably gave EAFC a run for its money, but it's soccer. Soccer is the biggest sport in the world. You gotta have the best sports game then, if you're the biggest sports in the world. Best multiplayer game, so happy Helldivers won this one. I felt like they deserved it. Once again, I think it introduced a lot of people to a gameplay they have never experienced before. I can't remember what game it was that did a persistent war effort. Hold on, let me look that up. Like Foxhole is like the newest one. Planet Side, that's what it was. Planet Side, that was a classic. Yo, I remember my first time going to my homie's house and he like, yo, have you ever played this before? Like, let's check and see what the map is looking like. I'm like, what you talking about? And you get on there, it literally just shows like everything that's going on. That low-key makes me want to download Helldivers. I'm not gonna lie, like I actually might get that game just for that. Best adaptation, Fallout. I watched that series in a week. It was so good. Very, very well done. And shout out to HBO. Was it on HBO or Prime? I can't remember. Most anticipated game. This award really bugs me. Because what do you mean most anticipated? Who is judging that? Who is that? Like, they literally just gave GTA an award. Like, here. I love the meme where it was like, GTA got an award before GTA came out. Like, so many things are happening before the next GTA comes out, which is just like, what? Content creator of the year. Hey man, you know, we might be on that list one day, you know what I mean? But Queso, he was watching it with his stream when he won, which is just an insane feeling. I feel like he had people on there that have been watching him since day one. He talked about how he started out in a trailer and, you know, it was just streaming at the crib and blew up one day. And, you know, he was just saying it could be you. And I'm just saying that as someone who has prided myself on the small community I built, but I am not seeking it. You know, and I think Queso was probably in that same category where he wasn't seeking it. He was just doing what he wanted to do, doing it how he believed was the best way to do it. And he's content creator of the year for 2024. So congratulations to that, man. Best esports game. Once again, who's voting for this? If you guys haven't seen it, I dropped a video saying is esports dead because it's hitting a very, very sharp decline. Now to add to the fact that they're saying League of Legends is the best esports game. Best esports athlete, shout out to Faker. He's a legend, so you know I'm just gonna keep it at that. And then best esports team, it was a League of Legends team, but there was 3 League of Legends teams nominated, so I don't know what's going on with the League of Legends community. Like they have held it down. That's all I'm gonna say. Shout out to the sponsors they be getting, because you gotta keep money in the league for it to even do what it's doing. So shout out to them. So that is the Game of the Year awards for 2024. I'm sorry if you already watched it and you knew all of these awards, but just wanted to read through those and give my live reaction to them all over again, because I felt like all of this made sense. I felt like this was the most watched. I haven't seen a lot of stats yet. But I feel like this was one of the ones where a lot of people tuned into it, because for one, a lot of people don't know this award show exists still, especially if you are not in tune with the gaming community. For 2, studios are trying to work for these. Studios know awards help. Studios know if you have an award for your effort, it means something. You know, I am an athlete. I come from an athlete background, and I know what an award means, even if it's at a small level, even if it's at a large level. Like I said, yes, the IGN stuff, the Steam stuff, all that stuff still exists. It's just the fact that this is on such a big stage. This is the award of the awards. So some of the moments that happened during the award show, any award show, you know, you gotta have the moments, you know, the key moments. Oh boy, that's known for Metal Gear Solid farted on the mic.
Gaming industry, but it has also evolved in.
What are we doing? What's going on? Like, can you imagine, like you sit down like, ah, man, I hope nobody's seen that. Your phone just blowing up like, yo, it's on Twitter. My boy with the flute, he was going stupid. God dang, that boy was going crazy. A lot of people were kind of disappointed that Metaphor won all those awards and they ain't say nothing about Persona. So a lot of people are on edge about that, where they like, are they working on something? We gotta talk about the trailers. That's one of the very cool things about the Game Awards. Like they were just talking about, where we didn't hear any Persona news. Same thing went here, where it's like, yo, you have the opportunity to announce anything. You know, once again, I don't know what they have to pay or who they have to consult with to get these types of trailer spots and announcement spots. But I think if you have a game to pitch, I feel like they're not against it. I've seen games of all levels be announced at these game awards in the past. So it's been indie studios and mid-level studios, and of course Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, they'll throw theirs in there. But like, I felt like this one, man. But let's just get into it, man. Intergalactic is an instant buy for me. Oh my gosh. Naughty Dog, if you guys have not played any of their games, they make bangers. And this one is just, it's just itching something for me where I'm like, oh, this is about to be fun. And then I get on Twitter and there's, I don't know if it showed it in the trailer. I'm gonna have to run it back, but they showed a Porsche spaceship. I was like, wait, was that in is that in the game? I was like, yo, like anybody, and this is why I like the Dune movies and the Dune TV shows, because anybody who can think just that far out into the future, where if I had a Porsche spaceship, this is where the air vents would go. This is where the radio screen would go. If I made a Porsche spaceship, like, I just love that type of, and it just felt like everything down to the little weapon that the main character has, the jacket, the haircut styles, and it just feels like it's gonna be one of them games where, yo, that's a day one for me. I'm sorry. Witcher 4, they did a cinematic trailer. They didn't really do a gameplay trailer, which, you know, you gotta take that, you know, with a grain of salt sometimes, but we knew they were working on that, so I'm glad that they announced it. You know, I'm not a huge Witcher fan. I like some other games, like Cyberpunk, for example. So the fact that they're working on Cyberpunk, because I still need to play the DLC, and they're still working on The Witcher 4, like, CD Projekt Red is a very, very large gaming studio. Like, they have to have hundreds of coders. I feel like at this point, I could not say how perfect the timing was for Mafia. Like, the timing was just because, you know, the two things that went crazy this year. Sopranos went on the front page of HBO Max this year, and it has done extremely well. I've read and seen a lot of podcasts and stuff about it. Like, the Sopranos rebranding, bringing it up is going very well. I don't know what they're going to make for Sopranos in the near future, but the fact that it's been able to build up this momentum of nostalgia and people are rewatching it. I watched it again. Like, it's such a good show. And then, of course, we had Penguin come out this year, which Penguin did extremely well. It has some Mafia ties to it and all that good stuff, but Mafia, the Old Country, ooh, it's gonna be good. I haven't played a bad Mafia game, so I'm excited for that one. Outer Worlds 2. I didn't play Outer Worlds. I did not play Outer Worlds, but the announcement of Outer Worlds 2 has made me think I should play Outer Worlds 1. And I think a lot of other people had that thought when this trailer went off, because the trailer was not bad at all. It gave a lot of nostalgic Fallout feelings where, oh, this kind of feels like a newer Fallout, to be honest. So why not? Borderlands 4, man. Are you kidding me? They still making Borderlands? Oh, I've spent so much time on Borderlands, y'all. You do not understand. They did say 100 times, like, this is not actual gameplay, which, like I said, anytime you see a trailer, especially a trailer before you knew the game existed, you can't take it that serious. You cannot take it that serious, because you know there's going to be things changed. Things aren't going to be what they seem, and all the little stuff. But I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know this was on the radar. I am buying this day one. I am a Borderlands fan. I love Borderlands. It's a very fun game. It's an RPG itch that you just don't get. I think the only thing that probably came close to it is Destiny, which Destiny now has made it to a point where if you've missed Destiny by now, like, you don't have to catch up to 87 DLCs. So I think when Borderlands 4 comes out, I think that's going to be a good one. People don't remember Borderlands 3 had a good amount of DLCs as well. So I'm kind of worried about that side of where Borderlands 4 might have 10 DLCs on it for extending the missions and adding more dungeons and arenas. And I know they were tapping into a little bit of the multiplayer stuff. So it's going to be exciting to see what comes out of that. There's two sides of every single game of the year, man. There's people that think gaming is dying and all the large companies run the market, and you know the indies don't get no love. And I'll tell y'all something, man. I'll tell y'all something. These large studios are hanging on for dear life. Everything they drop has to be a hit because you have 600, 1,000 people working on one game. If it doesn't go well, they probably lose their job. Like, that is literally where video games are today, where indie studios have kind of built up a sort of way that they can keep going without having that type of pressure. Like I said earlier in this, early accesses, betas, they found ways that they can still take on money. Give me more money, give me more money. And they don't have to get judged at the level that a Persona does or Final Fantasy, where if you drop these types of games, it better be good because we waited. We've invested in your past games. You're a large studio. You have all the best talent in the world. Like, the list goes on for why a large studio cannot take L's, and that type of pressure is not put on indie developments. And I hope people realize that when they judge these types of competitions, because all the games in these types of competitions, hey, you not opening up your computer and making one of these games right now. I'll tell you that. You cannot make a Call of Duty on your computer in 2 seconds. I promise you. Yes, you can get some assets, you can get some guns, you can make an aiming system. The amount of coding and the amount of talent that goes behind these types of games to make it do what it does is hard and expensive, like billions expensive. The fact that people think that indie developments can take over these types of award shows, that will never happen, because these indie developments are themselves going to get bigger and then be in these types of award shows where they would not let somebody who just invested 50 grand into a game be mentioned in these types of award shows. So I hope people don't take these award shows that serious where they're like, dude, gaming's dead, all the best. No, don't do that, because there's a lot of good games that have came out that are from very, very large, successful studios. Does every game come out perfect? No. Do they make the best decisions? No. Any large company struggles to make decisions. Am I defending the large studios? Heck nah. Hop on any live streams with me, play any games with me. I'm judging every game as it is. I don't care if it's early access. I don't care if it's an established studio. I don't care. I am playing the game and judging it for what it is, which every person should. There's no other Destiny 2s on the market. There's no other Helldivers 2 on the market. There's no other Call of Duty Black Ops on the market. Those are games that you just can't get clones of, because the amount of time and effort that was put into getting up to this game was insane. With that, the consumer gets left out. Whether that's this is digital only, whether that's this is PlayStation only. These are business decisions. These are not consumer decisions. And these business decisions are made for profit. And that's just where the video game industry has made it to, where when video games were first made, they didn't have those types of business decisions that had to be made. People was just doing it for the love. People was just doing it just to see what could happen. Like, yo, if I make this, what is it gonna sell? 100 copies, 200 copies? Let's see. And then once they was able to see how much money video games make, it was going like this, and then it went like this. Because people that weren't video game heads, people that weren't in the video game industry started dumping millions of dollars into it. And that's just where it is now, where there's outside money influencing the video game industry. So the last thing from me is support your favorite games. Support your favorite games. Doesn't matter if it came from Sony. Doesn't matter if it came from Xbox. It doesn't matter if it came from your cousin's game studio. If it's a game you like, it's a game you enjoy, and it's a game you're following in depth, support it, because you are still supporting someone's work, whether that is they work for a large studio or whether that is they work for a small studio. The passion, the want to do great things, that still comes down to the people that are getting their hands dirty on these types of games. And I hate when people say, oh, I don't want to support Sony, I don't want to support Xbox. It's still just regular old people working on these games. They can't control the type of decisions they make, but hey, they can draw their character that they were in charge of, or the script that they were in charge of writing, or the voice acting lines that they were supposed to do. They can still give their 100% effort. So please watch what you say when you're judging the studios that these games are a part of. Judge the game for itself, because hey, 2024 awards, I think it went well. I think it went extremely well. I think this year we follow the indie development a lot closer. I think that's going to be something I do for myself. Me being someone who is getting more intrigued in coding and being a lot more intentional about the type of things that I want to learn, because I think there is a future in indie development games because of what we've seen from the large studios where, hey, for mental health reasons, a $200,000 3D artist might go to a studio for $100,000 because now he has less pressure. He now has a job for multiple years instead of having 6 months. I think in the near future, the MC show, we will talk a lot about the best indie studios. We're not going to talk about the ones that are on the come up or the potential. We're going to talk about the best indie studios that are really making moves, and we're going to go from there, man. So, hey, thank y'all for tuning in, man. This is the last MC show of the year. I can't believe it, man. We've had just an incredible year. Not only for this page, but just for the MC show in general. As you've seen, I've tried a lot of different things. Editing, I think going into next year, I have a very, very good idea of what we are going to bring to the table. So, hey, please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. Please like this video. The video will also be found on Spotify. So, hey, you can go ahead and listen to it on Spotify if you want to play it back. If you are on Spotify, yo, shout out to you tuning in and listening. Let me know in the comments, what was your game of the year? Was there something that should have been game of the year over what won and what was nominated? Was there a game that should have been mentioned that wasn't even mentioned at all in any of the other awards? And what game are you looking forward to in 2025? Please do not say Grand Theft Auto. It's Malik Childish. This is the MC show. I'm gone. Two.